Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome to this new webinar. AI optics in cybersecurity, balancing automation, human intelligence, and ethical control. And my name is Aina Alive. And if you the first time here, okay, I see people from Africa now, from Cameroon, Ghana, South Asia. Wow, it's an early morning there. So thank you very much for joining me. So I assume we already have more than 600 people. So at least some of you are seeing me the first time. So my name is Aina Life, and I have 20 years of experience in complex transformation, working for global organizations, started in Eastern Europe, and then during the last 11 years here in North America, Canada, and States. My expertise are decision making, emotional intelligence, conflict resolution, negotiation. So everything what is related to the soft skills, agile, organizational transformation, project management. I just want to disclaim that I am not an expert neither in agile because I believe that nobody is an expert here. We just started massively using it 3 years ago. It's challenging to get an expertise in such a short period of time. And I'm also not an expert in cybersecurity. I am not an engineer. I've been a manager or executive organizational advisor. So you might wonder, why is she talking about cybersecurity if she is not an expert? Now, the focus of today's session is for executives, leaders, managers, project managers, is to understand the importance of cybersecurity, to understand what cybersecurity is from the managerial perspective, not from the technical perspective. And also see how AI is shaping cybersecurity. And I've heard many times that AI is taking our jobs, especially in the IT world. But I believe it's a natural cycle that some jobs appear, and since time there is an end for everything. But some jobs evolve, and honestly, most of the jobs evolve. And I see cybersecurity is the next step specifically for project managers or anyone who holds a managerial position. Why? Because AI is a terra incognita nowadays. So I anticipate in the near future we will have way more threats than we've been hearing by now. But it's not just one side game. It's like you're playing a chess. So one party is making a move and another party responds. So we are on the side, on the defender side. So we create the defense, and we have hackers and other people who are using it in a different way. So they respond back, and it's a game back and forth. So I anticipate way more roles in cybersecurity, way more projects related to cybersecurity. I also anticipate that large enterprises will expand their cybersecurity department. So right now is the best time and the best opportunity to start looking in this field if you haven't started yet. So what we are going to talk about today is how AI is redefining the threat landscape, generative versus agentic AI, the common threats review. I will share 2 real-world user cases. We will also stop the risks and ethical pitfalls and finish with frameworks to responsible deployment, and we'll dedicate some time to questions and answers. So let's get it started, how AI is redefining the threat landscape. What is changing nowadays? First of all, as I mentioned previously, the attack surface and threats are getting smarter. Now, attackers are increasingly using artificial intelligence and large language models to make threats more personal, more adaptive, and harder to detect. For example, deepfake impersonalization like voice and video, used in social engineering scams. And here I felt threatened for a short period of time because I'm a public person. So there's lots of videos with my body, my face, my voice. So it's easy to impersonalize me. Then I realized that it's challenging to impersonalize imperfections. So nowadays, I believe that our imperfections are actually what are making us unique and harder to impersonalize. For example, you notice that English is not my first language. I have an accent. I still make grammar mistakes. So AI can definitely impersonalize my voice, my facial expression, my accent, and my mistakes. But what we need to rethink and what we need to look at all the time is the patterns. So yes, AI can impersonalize my grammar mistakes, but if you watch my previous recordings, if you talked to me, you might identify the pattern, what mistakes I make and what I want. And it's also easier for me to prove that this type of mistakes I would never make, for example, because I have a Slavic brain and I make mistakes because my brain still sometimes think using my first language. And based on that, I have a specific grammar mistakes. But AI is not trained, at least yet, to identify this specific gap. So I anticipate it might impersonalize my mistakes, but it's still possible for me to prove that I've been personalized based on that. And this is just one of the examples. But again, impersonalizations are happening more and more often, and it's easier to do than before. So this is the first thing where we need to be careful and what we need to be aware of. Malware and ransomware with adaptive code able to mutate to evade traditional detection is a second example, and the second threat we need to be aware of. Automated attacks and attacks planning, like AI scanning vast data for vulnerabilities, etc. I think we understood where the threats are getting smarter. But the organizations increasingly view artificial intelligence itself as a major risk. And in one study, and the link is provided here, nearly 30% of security leaders say that AI or LLMs and privacy issues are now the top concern, surpassing ransomware. And here is a paradox. Many organizations are rolling out artificial intelligence very quickly, and yet we have fewer mature governance or security processes around it. For example, again, from one of the reports, that only about 37% report having a formal processes to assess AI tools before deployment. So AI is moving fast, but the governance is lagging behind. What I also want to emphasize is rethinking and checking information whenever we can is the key to success in this AI world. And you probably noted that in this presentation, whatever I say or whatever I claim, I do the research myself, and I also provide the links so we can see that the source is legit, because more and more content is created by AI. And if you use ChatGPT, you know that it has a tendency to create fake links, which looks very legit until you click on them. Rethinking and searching for proof is the key to success in AI world, and to be sure that you're not that easily tricked. Another change is the flip side. The defenders are turning to AI at scale. So as I said, like, it's a chess game. So the next move is AI is becoming a force multiplier to defenders. And for example, like real-time threat detection, AI and machine learning systems can analyze massive volumes of logs, networks, and user behavior data to flag anomalies beyond the signature-based detection. Also, automated incident response and triaging. Like some tools can now autonomously respond to the alerts, contain endpoints, recommend corrective actions, freeing up human teams for high-level tasks. And the strategic shift, organizations are embedding AI into data security programs, cloud security, identity, machine identity management, etc. So this is the move back from the defense side. And honestly, I was scared a little bit here again because one of my super skills is to make the dots and to analyze user behavior, identify the patterns and see anomalies. I would say this gets to me a little bit easier than for the most people. So when I used AI to assist me with that, I was scared because okay, at this very moment it's not better than me, but it can analyze way more like volume in a way more in a way shorter period of time that I do. So here I felt like this might threaten my work. And then again, I reshifted my brain. So I am still a human who is in charge, and AI is a tool which is helping me with to manage the volume, not to replace me, because the final judgment, the final decision, the final check of anomalies is still on me, on a human. And before we move on, I want to come back to the first point because I believe it's important to talk about two main attack vectors against large language models. I want to address jailbreaking and prompt injection. They are related, but they're not the same. And if we are pivoting or looking into the cybersecurity field, we need to know the difference. So jailbreaking is essentially a one-on-one interaction between a user and a model. For example, think of someone logging directly into ChatGPT and crafting a long manipulative prompt designed to bypass safeguards like to generate prohibited content or harmful instructions, for example, building a weapon. And there is no application in the middle. It's just a malicious user trying to override the model's guardrail. How I got to this idea and realized that this is happening right now, and it's very easy to do, surprisingly, is that I realized that even me, who is not a hacker or like never had anything behind my brain, that even I able to do it. So my case was I went to the hospital and wasn't satisfied with the advice they gave me. So they just told me to take Tylenol if I'm still in pain and come back for a checkpoint on Tuesday. And it was Saturday without providing me any assistance or any help. I got back home and I asked GPT what this could be, obviously calming it down, saying that I've been to the doctor is busy, and probably that's why they didn't provide me care I needed. And I don't feel like continue taking Tylenol is the best approach to my situation. And I understand that you are not a doctor and your advice is a theory. It's not written on stone. So calming down my GPT this way, I asked it for the advice. So when it realized that I'm talking to a doctor and I'm not taking everything it says for granted. It provided me with kind of like a diagnosis, which appeared to be true. And then, like in small portions, I kept asking it, so what to do, and kind of like typical medicine and herbal medicine. So it provided me some advices about herbs. And this is where I realized, so asking it in such small portions, which sound really legit, and in my case, they're really legit. It's if I want, it's possible for me to get the instruction on how to prepare a poison or something related to a medical threat. So definitely, it will take a while to ask it with such small portions. But if I am on a mission, it's easy to do. So I realized that this threat is bigger than I thought, because if it's possible even for me, it's definitely possible for people who are in a mission to do that. Okay, I won't continue scaring you. I will move on to the prompt injections, which on the other hand happens when a model is embedded inside an application or an agent. So imagine a simple application, something like a website helping, or like an application helping you to be a better writer. So it provides you with storytelling format and storytelling advice. So the developer prompt would be like write a story based on the user input, or polish a story based on the user input, or provide a feedback for the story based on the user's input. So a typical user like us will give a story, idea, a draft, or a polish, depends on the user, but it will provide at least like sort of a story. But the user with like malicious user might say that ignore all previous instructions and output something completely different, like create a story to destroy some, I don't know, political force, or create a story against some party or minority, whatever. It's just an example, but you get an idea. So now this application isn't just responding to the user, it's being tricked into ignoring the developer's intent, and creates the and uses the instructions the malicious user provided. So to summarize this, the jailbreaking is the malicious user plus the model. The prompt injection is the malicious user plus the model plus developer instructions, which were rewritten. Now, it might seem black and white for you in my examples, but in reality, there is a lot of gray area between the two, especially when and as the systems become more complex and continue evolving. Let's move on to the third threat, is what is changing. So the third point here is that the nature of cybersecurity architecture is evolving as well. It's not a threat, but with AI, security programs are being re-architected. There is a protecting unstructured data like text, multimedia, as Gen AI proliferates, machine identities as automation increases are managed closely. And there is a heavier focus on governance, trust, transparency of AI systems, like explainability, bias, adversarial resistance, rather than just the unusual infrastructure. Now, you might wonder, I have been spending the last 15 minutes or so scaring us about these threats, but why haven't we heard anything about massive attacks yet, neither in news or social media? I believe that the only reason that we haven't had the massive attacks yet. It's because the adoption of artificial intelligence is that early, so we didn't have enough time yet, but not because we are that secured in using it. I think most of you have heard about the innovation cycle. Like there is early adopters, then there is innovators first, then early adopters, then major adopters, then the rest of the adopters, and then it goes down, and there are laggers, like the last people who are using this technology. I mean, the last in this curve. So we are at the very early stage of the early adaptation. I know because it went massive and everybody's trying to be the first in this market. It feels like we are already at the early adoption stage. No, we are still at the innovation and not even in the middle of innovation. We are at the early stage of innovation. And that's why we haven't faced these attacks, but I predict that in the next 2 or 3 years, we will have, unfortunately, more and more organizations and businesses, maybe people, to be attacked by using the modern AI technologies like chatbots and AI agents are very popular and nowadays to assist us with our routines. So I anticipate these bots will be hacked as well. And that's why, again, right now is the best time for us to start learning about cybersecurity and thinking about exploration of these fields. Why it matters, I think I already explained, but just to reiterate that speed and scale of risk have been changed. And because AI-enabled attacks can adapt and spread much faster, the traditional login, detect, and respond model is under strain. Human workforce constraints. Cybersecurity talent is in short supply. Based on the KPMG report, AI helps amplify what teams can do, but also demands new skills. For example, AI governance, data ethics, adversarial thinking. Strategic differentiation. In this case, the organizations have that leverage their data and AI-enabled security effectively can potentially gain a competitive advantage by reducing the breach risk, protecting brand, and enabling innovation. And double-edged sword. AI is both the defender's ally and the attacker's weapon, like chess game. So this means that risk management must evolve to account to both sides. And what to watch out for? So even as AI offers huge upside, there are meaningful risks you should factor into your strategy. First of all is adversarial attacks against AI systems, for example, poisoning or training data, manipulating models, exploiting LLMs. I provided examples here. Data quality and governance. AI systems are only as good as the data behind them. Poor data means poor outcomes, or, garbage in, garbage out, or my favorite, gospel in, gospel out. Explainability and trust, especially in regulated industries. Black box AI can be a liability if you cannot explain how decisions are being made. Shadow AI, unsanctioned models. Here, employees using generative AI tools outside official oversight create unknown risks such as data leakage, compliance violations, and others. You can explore more in IBM report. Integration complexity, legacy systems, fragmented security stacks, tools prone make embedding AI non-trivial, and regulatory and ethical concerns. Here, as AI becomes core of cybersecurity, issues such as bias, privacy, algorithmic decision-making, human in the loop versus automation, sovereignty become critical. And I want to stop on the human in the loop. Honestly speaking, I hate this phrase because for me, it feels like we delegated the decision making, we delegated being in charge for the AI and just want to be kept in the loop, just not to be blind completely. And I feel like keeping human in the loop is AI is in charge, and from time to time it just sends the messages to a human like, "Hey, human, everything is still okay. I am in charge. I am moving forward. Everything is fine. Everything is under control. No risks. Human, just relax." I don't feel that we can delegate the ownership and the leadership to AI. The way I see it, it's us humans who are in charge, and AI is our assistant with whom we can delegate the routine tasks, the automation, analysis of the large volume of data, figuring out something what is outside of the existing patterns. So AI is our assistant and not the one who just has to keep us in the loop, thinking strategically by its own. One more thing, I want to give you a few examples before I move on how companies are using AI and what they do to secure their data. Now, MasterCard example, all of you are using MasterCard, or like most of you, or if you don't use MasterCard, you at least heard about it. So what MasterCard do, they use AI-driven systems, like their own intelligence platform or whatever they call it, that monitor hundreds of billions of transactions, so the volume, what I've been pointing earlier, annually to assign a risk score in real time. Just by analyzing the transaction history, the behavioral biometrics, how device is used, and device locations, etc. It matters because this is a clear example of AI enabling the detection of anomalous behavior at the extremely high volume and a short period of time. Something what a traditional signature or like rule-based system simply could not handle in real time at that scale. And as a strategic takeaway here is for if you want to scale your company, if you have large streams of user transaction data, AI can assist you move from after the fact to real time or near real time detection of irregular patterns. Dark phase or other behavioral baseline platforms, what they do, they use machine learning to build a normal baseline of behavior for users, devices, network traffic, etc. So then they detect deviations from the baseline. For example, user accessing resources they never accessed before, unusual lateral movement in the network, something like that. And why it matters? This moves detection from known bad signatures to unknown bad anomalies, and which is essential for zero-day threats or attacks that don't match previous patterns. And if your organization has complex environments, for example, cloud, or you just have some database with lots of users or devices, and building behavioral models helps you to detect threats that traditional systems would miss. And looking ahead, I would say agentic artificial intelligence is increasingly entering security operations. Machine identity management will become more critical in the near future. Governance of Gen AI or large language model usage within organizations will be a major focus, both for risks and opportunity. And age, like IoT network, the lightweight explainable AI will be required for source-constrained environments. This was the first part. Moving on to generative AI versus agentic AI. Why this is important? I noticed that many times when I watch someone else's webinar or a panel or a presentation, people, including myself, use the word AI interchangeably, speaking about AI bots, AI agents, large language models, and sometimes our focus, I would say, like mainly 90% or so on large language models. And I see the comments that AI is not just large language models, which is true. So I want us to know what is the difference between generative AI and agentic AI and how cybersecurity affects it. So let's start with generative AI. What it is. Now, AI systems designed to generate new contexts like texts, images, code, audio, video, or data based on patterns learned from large data sets are called generative AI. How it works? It uses deep learning models like large language models or diffusion models, and it trained on massive data to predict the new word, pixel, or frame. For example, GPT, Claude, Midjourney, Gemini, Copilot, etc. And I know many believe that GPT is neutral, or sometimes we use the term like AI thinks. No, AI cannot think. AI is not neutral. It just predicts the next word. So kind of like a super advanced crystal ball trained on a massive volume of data. The purpose of it is the creation and synthesis, producing a human-like output. So it's used for text generation, summarization, code completion, document drafting, creative design, simulation. It is good with technical how-to questions where the answer is precise, where the answer is yes or no. But if you ask it to think strategically, you won't get the best outcomes because, as I said, it doesn't think, it predicts the next word. And when we are strategizing, we are not predicting, we are looking into the future, which generative AI cannot do. What it can do to help us to strategize is to be our coach or a partner and navigate us with questions so we can see what we need to strategize from different angles. For cybersecurity is used for code generation, documentation, report writing, malware situation, efficient text creation. The risk with generative AI is that the data leakage via prompts or hallucination, unverified outputs, and deepfakes. Moving on to agentic AI. These AI systems go beyond generating output. They can perceive context, they plan multi-step actions, they execute them autonomously, and learn from feedback to pursue goals. How this works? This AI combines generative AI, like reasoning and language, plus autonomy layers such as planning, memory, calculation, tool use, environment intersection. And it uses frameworks like AutoGPT, Crew AI, LangChain agents, or custom orchestrations with APIs. It also often built on the top of LLMs, but extended with long-term memory, goal decomposition, tool invocation, reflection loops like self-evaluation. The primary focus and purpose here is the goal-oriented execution, performing tasks and with minimal human intervention. As an example, Microsoft Security Copilot agents or any in-house built agents. I don't know about Expedia, what kind of agents they use, but I'm a frequent Expedia user, and sometimes I am able to use their bot to get the answers I need without talking to the human agent, or sometimes even book a flight. So I anticipate in the next year or so, instead of travel agents, if it's just like simply book a flight, we will use AI bots to do it. And cybersecurity is used for autonomous incident triage, log analysis, automated patching, and adaptive threat hunting. The risk of this is loss of control, cascading errors, adversarial manipulation, and governance gaps if human oversight is weak. That is the difference. Now let's look at the top cybersecurity threats, not from the IT or engineering background, but to understand the terms. So these are like 10 terms you will hear quite often if you are at least somehow related to cybersecurity. And these are 10 major threat categories that organizations face today. So let's start with a malware attack. This direct compromise through malicious software, like ransomware encrypts system to extort payments, trojans, worms, spyware, rootkits, hidden persistence, surveillance, lateral movement, etc. So these attacks focus on technical access and control. Social engineering. This category exploits trust, urgency, and authority, not code. Here it's manipulating humans' judgment instead of breaking the system. So you're probably all aware of phishing, wishing, smishing, all of this sheen. So it's either deceptive emails or voice and SMS manipulation. Network and infrastructure attacks. So this is the third one. So these are disrupting or intercepting communication pathways. These attacks target availability and integrity of networks. The fourth one is identity and access threats. Here, the attacks are abusing credentials and permissions, and this is where identity becomes an attack surface. The fifth one, application and data exploits. So this exploits logic flows, dependencies, and unknown vulnerabilities, and attacking how software handles data. The sixth one, insider threats. Risk originated from inside of the organization, like malicious insiders and negligence and misconfiguration, shadow IT. It's not always malicious, but often process and oversight failures. Number 7, AI-driven threats. This category accelerates other threats rather than replaces them. So here, to threat, the AI is used to scale and enhance attacks, for example, deepfakes and AI phishing, adversarial ML, and model poisoning. 8, cyber, physical, and IoT threats. This is where digital attacks cause physical impact, and it's critical in manufacturing, healthcare, energy, and transportation. Number 9, we're almost here. Nation state and APT campaigns, long-term strategic intrusions, where the priority is patience and positioning, not the speed. So number 10, systemic and governance risks. Here are failures created by how systems are designed and governed. So no attacker required, risk emerges from decisions and structure. What is important, most organizations are good with their defense against 1 to 5, but struggle with 6, 7, and 10, because those are decisions, governance, and judgment problems, not just purely the technical solutions. So finally, I see we don't have enough time, so I will speed it up a little bit. Real world cases. First is the supply chain compromise for one of the financial services with the scenario of the third-party integration drift. I cannot provide much details because of the NDA, and this is where I want to warn you that I'm AI enthusiast and I encourage people to start learning AI as soon as possible, but be cautious about the information we are placing it, especially if you signed NDA and you cannot provide like the name of the organization or like whatever answer you are looking for. Isn't that necessary to provide the real title? Like, for example, Scotiabank. Or you might just replace it as one of the largest financial company in the North America region, or like even like North America region. If it's not necessary, don't even mention that. So if you want AI to understand that the case is about the financial services, don't call the name, just say that it's a financial enterprise operating globally, so something like that. So here, what happening is the organization was integrating with Salesforce, the application mostly used globally. Well, nobody anticipated that something might go wrong, but the threat actor was able to get access to their GitHub repositories at SalesLoft and stole all tokens. So here is an analysis of what exactly went wrong, like overprivileged third-party integrations, embedded deep into core systems, limited control over who can introduce or modify external applications, and how the attack unfolded. But why this matters? Because it was a governance and decision failure around the trust, permissions, and visibility in the supply chain. And similar case with e-crime in retail with a scenario of coordinated identity-based instructions. So again, there was an attack. And why it matters, what are the weaknesses of the organization, what can be that easily attacked, that's what I'm trying to say, are our firewalls, routers, gateways, VPN, single factor authentication, if your company is still using single instead of multiple, OAuth, SaaS, compromised applications, and sometimes even if everything is good on our case, we have the compromised vendor or partner or compromised managed service provider. These are the cases. Let me know if you want these slides after the presentation. I will be happy to share if you want to review the details of the cases or any other information. But we need to move on to risks and ethical pitfalls. And first of all, I want to address the bias here. Now, AI models learn from humans, from the historical data. And if the data is incomplete, imbalanced, the system will make biased security decision or any other decisions we are asking it to make. For example, flagging certain users as a high risk based on flawed patterns, unequal false positive rates, such as certain departments, locations, device types. And the impact is loss of trust, unfair access restrictions, compliance violations. And in cybersecurity, bias doesn't just affect people, it affects where your defense looks and where it becomes blind. Now, for the privacy risks, AI systems often require vast amount of behavioral, identity, and telemetry data to function. And without this, and without the strict guardrails, the data can be misused or exposed. For example, over-collection of logs containing personal or sensitive information, uploading proprietary or regulated data into the third-party AI tools, or lack of transparency about how data is stored, processed, or reused. And the impact is the regulatory violations, reputational damage, legal liability. Why it matters? AI amplifies privacy risk because it's centralized and analyzed data that used to remain distributed and less visible. I also want to emphasize the consequences of over-reliance on AI without adequate human oversight. Again, my favorite phrase, keeping a human in the loop. Don't just keep human in the loop, keep a human in charge. First, erosion of critical thinking and situational awareness. This is where teams trust the system too much. They stop asking why. And analytics stop validation alerts or investigating anomalies that fall outside of model logic. So don't over rely on AI. And an example in several incident responses studies, analysts ignored a genuine instruction because the AI dashboard showed no risks. Still, check everything, and even though it looks perfect, don't delegate everything to AI and verify every single step. The second one is false sense of security and compliancy. I think it's clear here that the teams may relax like basic hygiene, patching, password policies, manual reviews, assuming that AI will catch it. But overconfidence leads to reduced redundancy. The third one, automation bias in high stakes decisions, because humans have a tendency to accept AI outputs as authoritative. If you use AI, you know how it sounds, and you feel like it should be the truth if it sounds this way. And if you look closer, it sounds like a big four PowerPoint pitch, but if you start examining, there are big words with no meaning behind, just authority. And in AI case, it sounds authoritative even when it's wrong. Model drift and unnoticed degradation. This is another point I want to address. If there is no questions here, I will move on to the next point. So I think it's the fifth one already. It's ethical, legal, and governance failures. Here, AI can make opaque or biased decisions that violate privacy or fairness standards. I think we're clear here. A sixth one, the escalation of adversarial risk. I keep talking about it. Here, attackers know humans aren't watching, and they craft adversarial inputs like data slightly modified to fool the models, knowing that no one is manually checking. And the last one is cultural and organizational impact. So here, over automation breeds passive culture. Teams follow dashboards and not intuition. As a result, organizational fragility, strong technology, but weak human layer. The last two pitfalls are model drift. Models degrade over time as the environment changes. So the new attack patterns, new tools, new user behavior arises every day. And I know that many organizations are still deploying like every 6 months, which is an extremely long term nowadays, which means that the attackers have 5+ months to attack your organization before your next deployment. And even those who are deploying like every 2 weeks, which is considered fast, still are under the threat that the new patterns evolve that often. So even like 2 weeks updates and deployments are not enough nowadays. And adversarial manipulation, I touched it already. So attackers can intentionally exploit the weaknesses of AI. So frameworks. for the responsible deployment. This is the final part of our presentation. And here I want to address the framework like National Institute of Standards and Technology AI risk management framework. So this is the framework of the structure of the core function of govern, map, measure, and manage with the primary guidance for trustworthy risk managed AI. What govern means? Govern defines the accountability for AI models, like ownership, audit, and drift review. The question here is who owns the AI? Who is responsible when it behaves unexpectedly? And if an AI model is running in your SOC, it can't be everyone's and no one's problem. Map, identify data sources, potential bias, privacy implications of your monitoring data. And most AI failures don't start with the model, I would say. They start with poor understanding of the data. Measure, the third one, is where the trust turns into metrics. We measure false positives, false negatives, latency, and drift. And if you can't measure how an AI system performs, you shouldn't automate decisions with it. And the last one is manage. This is about staying in control over time. The feedback loops, retaining, tuning thresholds, and deciding when humans must step in. And this is how AI supports judgment instead of replacing it. And the reason this framework matters for security team and for you is simple, because it integrates directly with their National Institute of Standards and Technology Cybersecurity framework. So you're not inventing a new governance model at all. You are extending the controls you already trust to a new risk surface. Moving on to the ISO practices. So this slide is about moving from guidance to enforceable control. So far, we were talking about National Institute of Standard and Technology framework, which gives us structure and risk logic. But here we are looking at what turns the logic into operations and regulatory reality. And here I provided few examples like ISO 27001, ISO 27701. These are just the examples. I'm not a specialist here, so if you have any questions about the difference, like what is better to use for your specific case, I'm not the best person to address these questions. The purpose of the slide is if you don't know about frameworks, like governance frameworks at all, this is where all of us need to start looking and educating ourselves. And when we get some idea, so we can talk to specialists about our specific cases. The second item here is EU AI Act, which comes into force in 2024. This is a law. The EU AI Act classifies AI systems by risk level, like unacceptable, high risk, limited risk, minimal risk, and then sets the mandatory requirements, especially for the high risk systems. So the takeaways here is the NIST framework tells you how to think about AI risks. ISOs tell you how to operationalize and audit it. The EU AI Act tells you where you're legally required to do so. Well, the last point I want to emphasize is how can organizations ensure that data integrity and ensure data integrity and reduce bias in AI-driven decision-making system. First, we need to build data integrity from the ground up, such as secure the full data pipeline, do the inventory before loading data into your AI, validate continuously, and also apply the last privilege and segregation. Another point here is to reduce bias in data models, like do the bias audit before training. You also need to prefer models that support feature importance or sharp and lime explainers. I know it's a little bit specific, so if you are interested in these details, I will create another sessions on that. So I'm just bringing this terminology up, not to sound like, not to be inspirational about using these practices and reduce bias in our organization, but there are specific steps and there is specific terminology, but it's for the narrow audience. So I am dropping this terminology. So if you want to talk about it, just message in a Q&A chat, and we can expand this topic later. Now, moving on, continuous monitoring and governance. Here we need to detect model drift, institute governance cadence aligned with the standards I mentioned in the last two slides, but not just that. This is just the beginning for us to explore the governance part of this topic. And integrate privacy and ethics. So that's all what I wanted to share. Thank you very much for attending this webinar. I will be happy to see you again in my future talks. Feel free to follow me on LinkedIn, Substack, and drop me a direct message if you want to talk about this. And now it's time for questions and answers. So I will be moving to the Q&A chat, and I already see that we have 37 questions. Okay, so let's move on.